Still not visible?
No.
Okay, give me a minute. Give me a minute. There's some problem
Okay.
with the
Okay.
connection. I'll switch it off.
Hi.
Lakshmi Sri ma'am,
Hi.
namaskar, namaskar. Hello, Lakshmi Sri ma'am,
Hello.
namaskar.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello, can you see me?
Yes,
Yeah,
of
Can you see?
course.
yeah, we can
Yes.
also see you.
Now we can see it.
Because I have no laptop now. I'm just operating my smartphone.
But you are very much visible.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
visible.
Very clear
Okay,
too.
thank you. Audible also. Audible also.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you, Molly. Hi, Molly. Hi. Hi, everyone. Hi,
Hi.
Mishra.
Hi.
So nice to connect.
I think Lakshmi, I think your poems were in some other collection. Your did you post your poems in one another book? Roots and Wings.
Yes, yes, yes. That was long time back.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah,
I was.
yeah,
Yeah, I remember. I was trying to propose to you that let's do the same thing, a new one, a new edited version. That
yeah,
was done, but it
yeah.
could be done in a better way.
Yeah, that itself was really a very good collection. Nah?
That's a very good collection. Yes,
Yeah.
that was I think 20 or 15 years ago. I don't remember.
Some 15 years ago, maybe
Yeah,
some
yeah,
15 years. And I
yeah,
enjoy,
yeah.
Lakshmi, I enjoyed your
No, I'm
poems
not
much.
sorry, I'm Lakshmi Sri. I'm actually, if you want to cut it short, then Molly will tell you I'm Sri or
Okay,
Lakshmi,
okay, okay,
Lakshmi Sri.
okay,
Yeah, Sri, Lakshmi Sri. Yeah.
okay.
Srija, now you are visible. Welcome, welcome to this evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So much of energy here.
Yeah.
Mishra sir, am I audible to you?
Yes,
Yeah, we
yes,
can hear
yes.
you.
Sir, from which place are you holding this conference sir, in this meet? From which place?
Google, Google.
Google, which place?
This is on Google Meet. Technology has connected us like anything, no?
No, no, I mean from which place? Roorkee or some other place?
From Roorkee. I am at Roorkee. Meenakshi is at Varanasi. Some of my scholars are at Roorkee. Some of us are at their own places.
And some will be joining from the US.
And and many of them will be joining from US as well. We are waiting for Usa because she is the first poet.
I'm here. Binod ji, I'm here.
Oh, Usa ji, please, please be visible.
I'm here. Can you see me?
Yes.
Namaste. Hello.
Hello,
Hello.
Usha ji, namaskar, namaskar.
Namaskar, Binod ji. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning. From here it is good evening.
I know, I know. Can you see me now and hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes. I can hear you.
Hi, Meenakshi.
I can see you.
Good,
I can see you now. Yes.
good.
Hello. How are you?
And I'm okay. Meenakshi, good morning too. How are you?
Good morning, ma'am.
How? Thank you. You've done so much work. Thank you so much.
Yes, Meenakshi has taken a lot of pain. Otherwise, with the sort of teaching and other things, I was not able to. I was rather stuck. Hello, Seema ji has also joined. Seema ma'am.
Hello,
yeah.
hello, Dr. Mishra.
Hello,
Hello,
namaskar
Dr.
ma'am. How are
Lakshmi
you?
Sriji. Namaskar, I'm
Hello,
fine.
hello. How are
Actually,
you? Seema,
I'm
how are
fine.
you?
How are you? I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm good. I have to say I'm good. Yes, I'm good.
Yeah, okay.
So,
And
Very nice seeing you.
Kalyani Dikshit has also joined.
hello,
Welcome.
everyone.
Hello, Seema. Hello, Kalyani. Nice to meet you.
Hello,
And
Parthi.
Hello, everyone.
hello, hello.
Hello. Hello.
आ रही है
Hello.
आवाज?
Sir, can
So,
you start?
oh, so I think Menka ma'am has also joined.
Yes, sir.
Meenakshi.
Yes, sir.
So we must welcome Menka ma'am also.
Hello, I've been listening to all the conversation. I didn't want to intrude. Good to
Oh,
see you.
ma'am, namaskar, namaskar.
Welcome,
Hello.
ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good
Good
evening.
evening. Good
Good
evening.
morning, Usha. It must be
Good evening,
really.
ma'am.
Good evening.
Hi, Menka.
Hi, I don't see you though, Usha.
Yeah, so good to see you after these years. I can see you.
Yes, oh, now I can see you. Hi.
How are you? How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Lovely to see
She
you.
is,
I
Usha ma'am
Hello,
is everywhere,
Menka.
you know. Usha ma'am is everywhere.
Menka, you're looking so different. I'm Lakshmi Shri.
Yeah, of course. How are you?
You're
It's been a
looking
long
a little
time since we
different.
met. It's been a long time.
After a long time, yes, after a very long time.
Yes,
But you're looking very beautiful, but you're looking a little different.
very different, I'm
That's
sure.
all.
You're as beautiful as ever, Lakshmi.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So, Meenakshi,
Yes, sir.
I think we are now to start.
Sure, sir.
It's 6, I think. And we have 33 participants now with us.
Yes, sir.
Bharti ma'am, namaskar, namaskar. Binod Mishra here.
Sir, should we start?
Sir, should we start?
Yes, we are going to start.
Okay. Uh, a very warm good evening and good morning to everyone. I welcome all our distinguished guests, our chief guest, Menka Shivdasani ma'am, our poets, Usha ma'am, Rashmi ma'am, Lakshmi Shri ma'am, Rachel ma'am, Anjana ma'am, Rani ma'am, Candice ma'am, Kalyani ma'am, Poonam ma'am, Mandira ma'am, Balsa ma'am, Seema ma'am, Pooja ma'am, Ali ma'am, Zinda ma'am, Punita ma'am, Shuja ma'am, Malvika ma'am, Bharti ma'am, Kalyani ma'am, Nandini ma'am, Sonu ma'am, Jyotsna ma'am, Savita ma'am, Pramila ma'am, professors, research scholars, students, and poetry lovers. We welcome you all from the very bottom of our hearts to this virtual platform to attend this virtual launching of e-book edited by Professor Charu Singh and Professor Binod Mishra, and the poetry reading session by 25 women poets from India and abroad. Well, before proceeding ahead, let me give you my introduction. I am Meenakshi Verma, research scholar at the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, IIT Roorkee, under the supervision of Professor Binod Mishra. I am privileged to be hosting this program today along with Raghunath Thakur, with the help of our team, Ashish Murmu and Muhammad Wasim Raza, my colleagues and able scholars. If anyone is not able to join the Google Meet, there is a YouTube link shared in the chat box which you can circulate with your family and friends. So it looks like we will be with you for the next couple of hours as your host. Again, a very warm welcome. It's after a very long time that we have finally received this opportunity by the grace of technology to come together and celebrate the hard and creative work of reading. And it's just not any creative work, but it's poetry. And we all have written so many answers about what poetry is. And if I'm honest, I'm sure no one of us would have ever been able to, define poetry, what poetry is. And I think that is how it should be. It will keep us all and yet somehow remain with us. Um, once once we come out of this mayhem of wanting to fit poetry into a definition, into a Procrustean definition, we realize that poetry is truly something to be felt deeply. And I believe that our poets here have done a wonderful job in making everyone feel every emotion through their candid and creative work.
I'm
Now,
hearing there
in
is a
today's
lot of
session,
noise. If I could request the participants to please mute their mics. We can barely hear anything. A lot of mics are unmuted. The admin can also individually mute
Yes.
them.
sure.
May I request everyone to mute themselves, and when their name comes up, they can unmute.
Lakshmi Shri ma'am, your mic is on.
Yes, it's okay now.
Now it's okay.
Please continue.
Right. Okay. Right. So I was saying about poetry. So the definition escapes us all and yet remains because it is truly something to be felt. And as I was saying, it is something that our poets here have done today. They have wonderfully made every emotion felt to the readers, and some of it which we are going to hear, listen, and feel today. Now, if I talk about what we are going to do today, in today's session, we'll be listening to some of our poets and who will read their poems and would talk about a lot of things. But most importantly, the complex relationship. They will talk about the complex relationship that a woman shares with her body, home, and society. Now, we will begin the session with a Saraswati Vandana. A few instructions before we start. With Saraswati Ma's blessings, of course, we move ahead with the session. A few instructions. Right. So please pin the screen. We would request our viewers to pin the screen on which the PPT is running. To do that, please select the screen and then you have to click on a pin like icon that is shown in the photo. You can see when you'll click on the screen, you'll find a pin like icon on which you have to click. Once you do that, the screen will get pinned so that it won't move here and there would be any disturbances, right? Then, second instruction is please everyone, whenever the speakers are speaking, we request you to make sure that your devices are on mute. If you have any doubts, any technical issues, any problems that you are facing, you can ask our tech team in the chat box. Right. Now, I would like to call Rangnath for proceeding with the event.
Thank you so much, Meenakshi. It's an honor for me to be here. First of all, I will invite Professor Binod Mishra, sir, who is the editor of this excellent poetry collection, Cuckoo in Crisis. He is himself a poet who has composed various poetry collections, and his poetic endeavor has created a space for the poets of diverse cultures. So, first of all, I call upon him for the welcome note. Sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Rangnath. A hearty welcome to all the dignitaries, the chief guest of this evening's event, Madam Menka Sibdasani ji, all the distinguished poets of the volume Cuckoo in Crisis, the revered family members of Professor Charu Singh, the inspiration behind all my creative and critical endeavors, many of my professor friends, my hardworking research scholars, publisher of Cuckoo in Crisis, Mr. Virendra, and poetry lovers from all the corners of the world. You are most welcome once again to this poetic festive evening for sparing your expensive hours when two significant events are going side by side. The one is Karba Chauth, and the other, a romantic and exciting cricket match between India and Pakistan. Romance and realism go side by side, yet your benign presence will add flavor to this evening's event. I once again wish all our participants, mostly our poets, a very happy Karva Chauth and pray to the Almighty for spreading the moonlight and sunlight of happiness in their lives. And what could be a more appropriate occasion and hour than this when Menka Madam is amidst us? So without any further delay, I would rather request Rangnath to introduce the chief guest to you all. And Rangnath is also requested to read ma'am's bio. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for this very warm welcome note. Now I feel privileged to introduce Menka Shivdasani ma'am, who has been my personal favorite poet among all the contemporary women poets. Menka Shivdasani, a Mumbai-based writer, has four collections of poetry, her most recent being Fragile, which is the collected poems of her from 1980 to 2017. She is co-translator of Freedom and Fissure, which was published by Sahitya Academy. It is an anthology of Sindhi partition poetry. She is the editor of an anthology of women's writing brought out by Sound and Picture, Archives of Research on Women, in short Sparrow. She has also edited two anthologies of contemporary Indian English poetry for the American e-gin, bigbridge.org. A widely published poet, her work has been represented in the BA English Literature textbook of the University of Mumbai. Menka Shivdasani has received the inaugural W.E. Eunice D'Souza Award 2020, Ethos Literary Award 2019, and the Rabindranath Tagore Literary Prize Certificate for Excellent Contribution to Literature. Menka ma'am has done extensive work in the field of Sindhi literature and has edited two books by senior Sindhi writer Mohan Gehani. She has been organizing annual poetry festivals since 2011 for the global movement 100,000 Poets for Change in 1986. She is the co-founder of Poetry in Mumbai. Her work as a journalist included 18 books co-authored with Raju Kane, three of which were launched by the then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. I would love to quote five lines from her very famous poem, Iron Woman. I can stretch without breaking, for I have been through the blaze, freed from the meteorite with lightning tongue. You may melt me and mix me, I emerge even purer, magnetic and ready to strike, Iron Woman in her element. So, now I invite Professor Binod Mishra, sir, who is the editor of Cuckoo in Crisis, for which this e-book launch session has been organized. I call you, sir, to invite Menka Shivdasani, ma'am, who is the chief guest of today's session.
Dear friends, I deem it my privilege to formally welcome Menka Sibdasani ma'am who, despite her busy schedules, agreed to honor my invitation and grace this occasion. The book, Cuckoo in Crisis, came out in May only, and I wanted an established woman poet to release it. Menka ma'am had been extremely busy, but finally a date could be decided, and today is the date. Today is that propitious date. Actually, I had been reading Menka ma'am's poem for the last 2 years, but this year, when I got to see the comments of Daruwala sir, I started delving deep in her poetic corpus. So when the person whom we read and whose works we quote is before us, I think there is no use delaying and requesting ma'am to come to us and deliver. But before delivering, I think ma'am will officially release the book. So, ma'am, you are most welcome. Yes, Meenakshi, please greet the ma'am with the bouquet.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mishra and Meenakshi. Thank you for all the trouble you've taken to make this happen, and to Rangnath for that very embarrassing introduction. I'm sure there are many others who achieved far more than I have, but it is a real pleasure to be here. And it is now my extremely proud privilege to declare this book as released. Congratulations to all the poets, and I'm truly honored to be here on this very, very special occasion. I've enjoyed reading the poems in this book, and I'm looking forward to looking at it in more detail over the next few days.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I think we should all I think Dr. Mishra deserves a big, big applause for the work that he's done for this book.
Yes,
That's
Professor.
Ma'am, I feel obliged.
And I truly feel sad that Charu Sheel Singh is not here.
His family members have joined.
Oh, that's lovely. I'm so glad to hear that. But I'm sure we all miss him today.
Yes. One of his research scholars, Professor Santosh K. Pandey, who is posted in NDA Kharagwasla, who has also joined. So, Professor Pandey,
Yes, sir.
thank you for joining this event.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And my greetings to ma'am and my all congratulations for inaugurating this book and getting it published even after Professor Charu Singh is no more. Thank you for this, sir.
Thank you. Yes, Rangnath.
Sir, please invite ma'am for her address.
So, ma'am, now I think we have been waiting here with a bated breath to hear to your words. Please do.
Thank you so much. And I hope my internet behaves itself, because it's been giving me a lot of trouble the last few days. But it is really a pleasure for me to join you today as we've launched this very important anthology of women's writing with its evocative title, Cuckoo in Crisis. The title Cuckoo in Crisis here refers to the melodious voices that have been stifled since time immemorial. And the poets in this anthology express the crisis in their lives in no uncertain terms. Their voices are strong and clear headed, even though, as Usha Akela says, they persist in the dark foliage of life. The forests they inhabit have diverse vegetation, a multitude of trees and branches that express the many facets of a woman's situation and identity. Dr. Nandini Sahu questions history and mythology and speaks of the many girls who are killed before they are born. Professor Lakshmashri Banerjee highlights a range of issues, including how her grandmother was chained in darkness in the cowshed 4 days in a month, as many women were in those times, and perhaps even today. It was a crime for her to bleed, or simply to have been born a girl. Dr. Rachel Barry's kitchen is a metaphor for a wide range of emotions, from anger to love, desire to boredom, sensuality, and adventure. These and other vibrant poems in this book by 25 poets reiterate what women writers have always known, that they must fight for their space and allow their voices to rise over the din and hubbub of domestic and other responsibilities. However privileged a space we come from, some of these issues afflict all of us. A woman's work is always interrupted. The hurdles may not be caused specifically by a partner who does not approve of her writing, though of course we know that happens all the time, but by the spin of domesticity that never seems to stop, and somehow is always considered more of a woman's responsibility than a man's. I remember as a young journalist when I interviewed the author Vera Sharma. She'd just been recognized for her work by the BBC, and she told me of how the day her husband saw her notebook and pen on the dining table, he would want his dinner earlier than usual. In fact, when I was a young girl, the poet Dom Moraes told me that if I was serious about writing, I should never make the mistake of getting married. Because no matter how interested the man might seem in my writing, finally it was what time the bacon was on the table that mattered. The kitchen certainly is a space that inspires a great deal of writing by women. In a book that I edited, If the Roof Leaks, Let It Leak, brought out by Sparrow, the Sindhi writer Indira Shabnam says in her poem translated into English, "What I write in the reality of the kitchen contains the sweetness of sugar, the sting of chilies and spices, the salinity of salt, the shapes of rotis, the effervescence of rice, the coolness of milk." The kitchen, necessarily, can also become a space of refuge for women. For someone like the self taught writer Rasundara Devi, one of the first Indian female autobiographers who wrote Amar Jaban in 1876, the kitchen became the place where she could hide sheets of paper that she stole from her son so that she could pursue her desire to write. And yet, there is nothing gentle about a kitchen space with its sharp knives, its stinging chilies, and its hissing flames. The kitchen, however, is not the only space that women can or should inhabit. Indeed, as Professor Charu Singh points out in the foreword to Cuckoo in Crisis, women must transcend the immediacy of experience and find bigger frameworks, historical, mythical, religious, and others. Fact is that whether the world has recognized it or not, women have always had bigger frameworks. And I put the word bigger in quotes because I do not believe that the personal is a smaller or limited space at all. In her book, Women's Voices, Selections from 19th and early 20th century Indian Writing in English, Eunice D'Souza points out in the foreword, the writers in this anthology were all, in one way or another, remarkable, sometimes formidable people. They were pioneers in various fields, literary and social, and the word first occurs several times in the list of their achievements. They were political activists, diplomats, legislators, doctors, writers. They traveled extensively, were published and feted abroad. At home in India, they often took risks in their personal lives, marrying men their parents did not approve of, or going to jail for their political convictions. Eunice D'Souza goes on to speak about the wide variety of subjects that they wrote about, including the position of women, Paris in the 1920s, Meet and Langston Hughes or Queen Victoria, dacoits, and prison conditions, among other things. Though this book focuses entirely on prose writing, it proves without a doubt that women, however society may have viewed them, were not people one could ignore. Yet, strangely, The world has often chosen to ignore writing by women. In their awe inspiring first volume of Women Writing in India, 600 BC to the present, editors Susi Tharu and K. Lalita begin their preface by saying, and I quote, "We began work on these volumes with the premise that critical assumptions, historical circumstance, and ideologies have been hostile to women's literary production and have crippled our ability to read and appreciate their work." They go on to say that when they first began, they were repeatedly warned, often by reputed scholars, that they would find few significant women writers in Marathi, Kannada, or Urdu literature. One of the editors had been teaching courses in Indian writing in English for several years, little suspecting that the 19th or early 20th centuries would hold such gems as Cornelia Surabji's autobiography or Pandita Ramabai's letters or memoirs, they remarked. Such negligence spills over into the realm of poetry as well. In his book, Critical Perspectives on Contemporary Women Poets in Indian English Poetry, published in 2015, Dr. K.V. Raghupati details the number of anthologies that have paid little attention to women's writing. His opening essay, Women Poets in Indian English Poetry, Politics, Power, Issues, and Themes, points out that since Derozio, as many as 400 poets writing in English had emerged on the scene, but women poets represented barely 10%. Referring to earlier anthologies devoted to women poets such as Psalms of the Sisters in 1909 and Margaret MacNichol's Poems by Indian Women in 1923, he then names several more recent anthologies, largely edited by male poets, in which few women poets figure. It is interesting to note that as many as 80 authentic anthologies have appeared since a Bengali book of English verse was published in 1918, he says, adding, research shows that only 5 anthologies were edited on women poets. By the time Dr. Raghupati had published this book, women poets in India had made their presence felt strongly enough to no longer be ignored. In fact, Dr. Raghupati's book was the result of a national level conference that he'd organized at the Central University of Tamil Nadu at Tiruvur in 2013. 40 papers were presented, selected from as many as 150 proposals. I was privileged to be among the women poets invited there as resource persons, and Professor Lakshmashri Banerjee, who's here with us, will recall the seminar well because she contributed greatly to the discussions. It was one of the first times that I, in fact, met her, and it's been a lifelong relationship that I've appreciated. Much has indeed changed in our literary landscape, thanks to the growing number of strong feminist voices. When E.V. Ramakrishnan and Anju Makhija edited We Speak in Changing Languages, Indian Women Poets 1990 to 2007, brought out by Sahitya Academy, they pointed out, while the poets of the 60s and 70s questioned their assigned roles as women, the poets of the 90s move away from a strident and aggressive tone of assertion. They also commented that the women poets in their collection had, and I quote, internalized the lessons of women's movements and were, quote again, sensitive to social oppression of all kinds. One of the poets, for instance, Seem Kasim, referred to issues raised by the Gujarat carnage. Gender is a component in their experiential matrix, the editor said, but it does not exhaust their range of themes. In modern Indian poetry in English, the revised edition brought out by OUP, Bruce King expresses a similar view. He says, whereas previously the existence of a woman poet inevitably led to questions about the relationship with the feminist movement, now that the feminists have helped free women from being expected to express a narrow range of opinions, feminist ideology has taken its place within a broad spectrum of topics, including the complications of a single life, problems of marriage, and life abroad. He also says poetry in English by women is part of the modernization of Indian society, including its participation in a global system of education and economics, which has replaced the older colonial and imperial networks. I've sometimes asked my own view on this label, woman poet. Once, decades ago, when Tom Moraes inscribed one of his books for me, he used this phrase as he signed the copy. When I asked him why he needed to specify in writing that I was a woman poet, he responded, "But women poets are different, aren't they?" I was in my early 20s and it set me thinking. As I understood it, being labeled a woman poet was generally meant to be patronizing. That one may be a good poet, but only against the canvas of writing by other women, and therefore in a limited way. I consider this point of view to be rubbish. I knew just as many men who called themselves poets who wrote nonsense. Gender had absolutely nothing to do with talent, in my view. I also knew that some women writers rejected this label and preferred to be known only as writers. Over time, I began to recognize that I personally did not have a problem being known as a woman writer because I saw it purely as a statement of fact and not as a pejorative remark. Yes, I write about a woman's experience, and I do not see this as being anything to be defensive or apologetic about. I have said this before, but it bears repeating. I was, however, acutely aware of the challenges that many women writers faced. Over the course of the years, I attended a few workshops where women discussed their writing and was appalled to learn of how so many of them, including those among the seemingly privileged English speaking elite, felt constrained in multiple ways. One session that I participated in formed part of a series of workshops conducted between 1999 and 2001 by Asmita and Women's World, which was a spin off from the International Pen Women Writers Committee. Initially, during these workshops, it seemed that women could write about anything under the sun. It was only later that they admitted, after very long pauses, that there were three things they could not write about: religion, politics, and sex. As the editors asked in the resulting book, The Guarded Tongue, what is there left to write about? More than a decade later, particularly among the writers in regional languages, little about the circumstances under which they were writing seemed to have changed. Despite all the hurdles under which women have written, however, the strength of their voices and the courage of their convictions are indisputable. Women writers have not asked for their freedom, they have simply assumed it and taken it as their right. As Nirmala Putul, a Santali writer born in 1972 in a tribal home, said in the Sparrow anthology that I edited, freedom is for those who want it and are willing to struggle to get it. Nirmala had been married against her will at age 13, having been bought by the groom's family for 12 rupees. She went on to help women become economically independent and pointed out that no girl should get married until she was educated. Having said this, I do not think we have achieved everything that we ought to as yet. While some women writers have found their voices and will not be silenced, there are many others who are indeed stifled. It is in this context that the title of this book, Cuckoo in Crisis, is relevant, and I compliment the editors for choosing to call it this. Though I can only speak for Indian writing in English, and even then, only from my own limited perspective and incomplete knowledge, I do believe that we have made huge strides in women's writing and have transformed the literary landscape. But until every woman who wishes to write, or indeed simply wishes to live freely, can do so, We cannot afford to be complacent. I'd like to end with this reminder by Seema Jain from Cuckoo in Crisis. If I may, is she here? Is Seema here? I hope she doesn't mind. I'm quoting her poem.
She is here. She is here.
Oh, lovely. Seema, thank you. I hope you don't mind.
Yes, same. Yes, Menkati, I'm here. Yeah.
Each moment, one's life is caged, imprisoned. Mostly, the cage is invisible, unseen. We, the birds, continue to inhabit it, living much of our lives under the illusion of freedom. So, congratulations to the poets and to the editors for putting together this impressive anthology. And let us hope that the melodies of stifled voices are heard loud and clear. And to borrow Usha's phrase again, through the dark foliage of our times. Congratulations to all the poets, to the editors, and everyone associated with this book. And thank you for having me here. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your contemplative words. The aesthetic quality of your poetry and the clarity of your poetic vision make us to understand the profundity of poetry. So, thank you, ma'am. Coming to this poetry collection, Cuckoo in Crisis, we had two editors, late Charu Singh and Professor Binod Mishra. It's unfortunate that Charu Singh is no more with us. He passed away on 3rd May 2021. Charu Singh is globally recognized as a poet, critic, and scholar. His book on William Blake, The Chariot of Fire, 1981, won him instant recognition the world over. His own theory of reading and creating literature is contained in the book Concentric Imagination, 1993. He has authored and edited several volumes on literary history, literary theory, and literary criticism. He brought out his major publication in 2009 on philosophical hermeneutics, which was published in 7 volumes. His major poetry publications include Tapascharnam, which was released by the great Hindi poet Mahadevi Verma, and then the other publications like The Indian Hero 1993, Creation Cocktail 97, Kashi 2007, Born Across Millenniums 2013, and 10 Mahavidyas 2015. Professor Singh retired as a professor of English from Mahatma Gandhi Kashi Vidyapith, Varanasi. He also held the position of head and dean for the same institution. His name is listed in many national and international bibliographies, both as a scholar and as a poet. Friends, his demise has created a void in the world of poetry, criticism, and Indian philosophy. But we know he will continue to guide us from wherever he is right now. I was fortunate to meet him once before his unfortunate demise. So now I would like to call Binod Mishra sir to say a few words in his memory.
Thank you, Raghunath. It's, of course, a moment of sorrow, but at the same time, it's a moment of satisfaction for me that this event has been organized. And I feel it a privilege to recite some of the lines from his book, Tapascharnam, which was released by none other than Mahadevi Verma. The lines are very relevant, and I cannot resist my temptation to recite those lines. When the mortals of the city sleep in the night, and the whole humanity is at rest, I visit the soul amid hushing silence of an ungentle river in her youth's exuberance. Some black shadows, but who are they? Rough-skinned like the ghosts of clay, casting their callous looks for the long-wished prey. Seeing me coming, oh, they turn away. A flurry of boats pass by that way, loaded with lost ambition men of mere clay, where lurking eyes sneeze and look at my face. The hidden divinity says no to their death grace. And I think the hidden divinity that is now late Charu Singh might be having a sort of satisfaction that his works do not go worthless and they're still there inspiring us in all forms and in all manifestations. Thank you very much. And now is the time that we can observe a 1 minute silence for the departed soul. Thank you, everyone, for your solidarity.
Thank you so much, sir, and thank you, everyone. Thank you, sir, for these beautiful words in Charu Singh's Sir's memory. This book was in its beginning phase when he left us, but our another editor, Professor Binod Mishra, took all the pains to make sure that the dream both of them shared must become a reality. His passion for poetry and his great poetic concern brought this excellent poetry collection before us. Binod Mishra is a professor of English at IIT Roorkee who has served in various institutions. He has published 23 books, out of which 17 are edited and 6 are authored on various aspects of English language and literature. One of his books, titled Communication Skills for Engineers and Scientists, is used as textbook and reference books in many reputed colleges and universities. Besides these informative books, he is also credited with two widely reviewed poetry collections, Silent Escapes and Other Poems 2011 and Multiple Waves in 2017. Two of his NPTEL courses, namely Soft Skills and Effective Writing, have been a huge success among online learners. He has received several prestigious awards, including AIMS International Distinguished Service Award 2008, AIMS International Outstanding Editor Award 29, and Excellence in World Poetry Award 2010 by International Poets Academy, Chennai, India. In the year 2020, he was conferred with a citation of the brightest honor by the International Sufi Center, Bangalore. He has been elected twice as editor-in-chief of the Indian Journal of English Studies, and he is presently holding the vice chairman's position in Association for English Studies of India. So I invite you, sir, to say a few words about this poetic journey.
Thank you. So, since we are going to talk about the poetic journey of Cuckoo in crisis, I'm once again taken back to my association with Professor Charu Singh, with whom I was associated for uh, more than a decade and a half. But you must not be surprised if I say we had met only but once. We had met only but once. But then no Sunday would pass away without waiting for each other's call, sometimes his, sometimes mine. And every now and then, whenever I called, he would always say, Binod ji, मैं आप ही के बारे में सोच रहा था. I think I will really lose these words of encouragement, because whatever little I have been today, it is only because of the blessings of late Charu Singh sir. Our first poetic enterprise came into being with the publication of one anthology, that is again a poetry anthology, entitled Exiled Among Natives. That was in the year 2013, of which some of the poets here are also the poets included in that volume. And since then, we have been thinking about doing a poetic anthology on women. But then, because of some reason or the other, that got delayed. In between, sir also got ill. But then only last year I decided the dream that we had seen together has to be nourished, cherished, and finally that has to come to be the reality. And I could do it only this year. But unfortunately, sir could not see the book. But then, what satisfaction I have is, sir had added some more lines in the preface that I had written. Of course, the foreword, as always, he used to write of all my books, was written by him. It is very interesting to note that all the books of mine were given a title by none other than Professor Charu Singh sir. Today's event, which is dedicated to all the women poets, would give Professor Singh's soul much satisfaction, and I can visualize him savoring his blessings from the above. Poet madams, you have made our poetic journey possible. Poet madams, needless to mention that as women, you are the imagination and the imagined. You are brave, brilliant, and benign. You are the one behind all creation. You are the flow and the balance. You lend the world colors and smell, and make the earth swell, enabling everyone to dwell amid peace, progress, and perspicuity. Why do we throng the temples When the real goddesses surround in every home, let us offer them our pious prayers. In no one can we find a better poetry in any sphere. The book, Cuckoo in Crisis, is full of good number of poems that unplug your potentialities, ma'am. I hope that the poetry reading session will unlock the wisdom of everyone's heart. I congratulate every poet present here and those who could not be present also. But as a poor poet myself, let me allow to read once again one of my poem from one of my collections, Multiple Waves. And the poem is titled Woman, in which I say, I am but born a woman since ages. Becoming is not my fate, a tireless traveler against the troubled times. Mostly a giver at all times, sometimes a receiver, though, of heat, hate, and harshness. The second stanza is I perform various roles, though cooking, cleaning, and washing my fort, fortified against man made strictures, a caged bird, my only being, I groan and grumble unheard, just to rage, civilization after civilization. When we were thinking about the title, once I had told Professor Singh, are our women still in crisis? And he had a very curt reply. I think the society still needs to be civilized. It still needs to be sensitized. And today I think his words really ricochette in my heart of heart. With these words, I thank you once again. And I look forward to you for all my poetic ventures in the days to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insightful address. Your poetic exuberance is so poetic that even your prose becomes poetry. So, thank you, sir. Friends, this inaugural session is now coming to an end. I thank all the participants for their active participation. The next round is the poetry recitation round, but in between we will take 5 minutes break. You need not to go anywhere. We will listen our distinguished women poets who are present here. So stay tuned.
Thank you. Thank you, Rangnath. Yes, Meenakshi.
Yes, sir. In 1 minute, 24 seconds, we'll start.
Okay.
So I hope everyone is back and welcome to that very short break. I hope you all are sitting comfortable in your seats, ready to buckle up and hold on tight. Let's begin. Since time immemorial, women have been forced to make many patriarchal sacrifices. We hear about it in the news, we witness it in our daily lives, sometimes become a victim to it, and most of the times are guilty of practicing it when we stay silent or indifferent. There are many such issues that this anthology titled Cuckoo in Crisis focuses upon. I believe it is a beautiful addition to the discourse on a very important global topic: women's self worth, their condition, and their position in our society. And as the Tamil poetess says, Kutti Revita says, how she writes the voices of other women, and as Menka ma'am too said, that poetry, it should belong to women who have not written, even them. Similarly, the wonderful poets that we have here today with us too have captured most of these emotions, our scattered voices, experiences, thoughts, and so much more in their poems, which will touch many hearts today, I'm sure. So, moving forward with the event, I would now like to call our very first poet, Usha Kela ma'am. Usha Kela has authored 4 books of poetry, 1 chapbook, and scripted produced 2 musical dramas. She earned an Mistiff Creative Writing from the University of Cambridge, UK. Her last poetry book, The Waiting, was published by Sahitya Academy in 2019, followed by Mantis Editores, Mexico edition in Spanish, translated by Elsa Cross. She was selected as a creative ambassador for the city of Austin for 2019 and 2015. Her work has been included in the HarperCollins India Anthology of English Poets. She is the founder of Matwala. She has been published in numerous literary journals and has been invited to prestigious international poetry festivals all over the world. She has won literary prizes such as the Poetry Society of India 2019 Commendation Prize, Open Road Review Prize, and others. We are honored to have you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Dr. Mishra, Meenakshi, for all the work you put in that took a year to come to this point. Menka, a brilliant introduction to women's poetry. I learned a lot from it. And I'm going to read a poem called This Is Where the Hair Fell, which is part of the anthology and is also part of a book that came out this year, which is called I Will Not Bear You Sons. And coincidentally, it's a heavily feminist book. I'm glad to be reading this poem because I've been reading various poems from the book, but I never got a chance to read this single poem. And this is about one of the Shakti Pitas near Mathura and Vrindavan. dedicated to goddess Katyayani. I think mythology is a fantastic weaponry that we have at our disposal to address women's issues and to kind of reinvent and reimage the mythology that we have to suit feminist purposes. Scribble of an alley of outstretched beggar bowls, shivering triangles, saffron flags flutter, turmeric stains, sindoors, smears, squelch, milk, honey, incense, the messy religious memoranda in the sanctum sanctorum, the gong heavy in the hand, the lift, the fall, the reverberation on the map of the palm, the shiver of this thread of awakening. Nandi embodies our waiting for a god made of stone, alive to his eye, alive to the circumambulations of faith. He, unloosened with grief in the cosmos, mourns his arms growing empty to the relentless work of the discus, her body parts falling, temples rising on this desecration. The finality of release sends him to an inner world beyond realms we don't know exist, till she, born again, mountain girl, his name on her first breath, awakened him with her penance and devotion. We are hooked to this first grand love story born with the stars, to these stories that erase Freud and signs, here in awe where the hair fell, here in the timeless fracture of selves. Up here, he waits fiercely, mustache lingam, stoned in grief and senseless with faith, devotees prostrate, cornucopia of marigold and melodies of rose petals. Something trembles within the hoops of cellular remembrance. To her we go, swallowed by the gullet staircase descending to the smouldering heart of our own being, it seems. The fires in lamps are little whisked meteors leaping away fiercely in the air. Her macabre presence, something horrifically real, startled by her eyes that hold us as pinpoints of stars. Here hope can bloom like a blood-red hibiscus. She nails it in the subterranean. Take back the dark feminine.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your poem that earnestly reinvokes the legend about a female goddess in a very fascinating and powerful manner. The graphic images that you have used, shiver and flutter, are just breathtaking. It suitably establishes the environment for one to take back the dark feminine. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for your poem.
Thank you.
Now I would like to call our next poet, Rashmi Bajaj, ma'am. Dr. Rashmi Bajaj is a promising bilingual poet, author, and literary critic. Her 5 poetry collections are well-known feminist works and subjects of many research degrees and research articles by scholars. Her internationally acclaimed criticism work, Women Indo, Anglican Poets, a Critic, has been selected by the US Library of Congress and is among the best publications in 1996. Recipient of many awards and honors, and inspirational scholarly speaker in international and national fora, a celebrated poet in poetry congregations. Rashmi Bajaj is also a strong print and electronic media presence with views, interviews, and poems frequently published and telecast. We are honored to have you, ma'am.
Meenakshi, is she there?
Uh, so I have to check.
If she's
Ma'am,
not,
can you hear us?
if she's not there, you can proceed with the next.
Sure, sir.
Because she had texted me that she may be late.
Okay, sir. Sure, sir.
So the next one, yes.
So the next poet that we have today here with us is Lakshmi Sri Banerjee, ma'am. Dr. Banerjee is an established poet, editor, literary critic, practicing vocalist, educationist with many national and international publications and awards to her credit. She is a senior Fulbright scholar and professor of English Commonwealth scholar, national scholar and gold medalist of Calcutta University, India, UGC postdoctoral research awardee, and former vice chancellor of Kolhan University, the largest in Jharkhand, India. As a university professor of English, poetry, and cultural studies, Dr. Banerjee has taught and lectured in premier universities all across the globe and recited her poetry and Indian music in several literary festivals and international conferences in many countries. She has 8 books of poetry with 156 publications in journals and anthologies across the world. We are delighted to have you, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Okay. I thank, first of all, our editors, Dr. Professor Mishra, Binod Mishra ji, and late Professor Charu Sheel Singh ji for this stupendous work on poetry by women. And I also thank Menka Shivdasani for actually covering or rather scoring through the entire landscape of women poetry that has been written since the Vedic period, because she talked about Margaret MacNichol's 1923 publication, which has a lot of Vedic women poets writing in Prakrit, and then she talked about Susie Tharu and K. Lalita's, and then she actually sort of threw light on a whole lot of issues on gender, patriarchy, etc., and how it should not really impact writing. So here is my poem, which I think I have shifted, I say myself, from an exclusionist feminism to a more inclusionist, what I call womanism or humanism. The earlier belligerence, somehow not only in my poetry, in many poets, has gradually been tempered to a more humanistic, more inclusionist way of looking at the world. But it does have the woman's world also. So here I have my shortest poem. It's called The Glistening Edge. And of course, there's a lot of feminist, I will not call it baggage, some kind of feminine outcry, but that is also, I think when you hear it, it goes into the larger world of human affairs, and we would all like to be a part of the larger world of human affairs. So this poem of mine is called, I hope I'm heard. Can I be heard?
Please continue.
Yes. Yeah. It's called At the Glistening Edge. Here is my poem, At the Glistening Edge. The veiled hue of my organza ghungat, the muted sheen of my nail enamels, the blurring sundown of my lipstick, no longer lure me to your shadowed enclave. My dusky cold eyes have dimmed with the colors of life. My dusky cold eyes have dimmed with the colors of life, while the soft scents of my bosom, the undertones of my tinkering anklets, have died down in a grey, cloudy silence. My dark, tonsured curls now accommodate this new life of explosion, expansion, and extinction. Your sapphire empyrean, emerald ocean, incandescent butterflies, energizing breeze, kaleidoscopic, kaleidoscopic multi-hued gardens like radiant bridal glass bangles, aromatic flowers, blinking bluish yellow glowworms circulate. Circulate, activate on the periphery of the penultimate zone, far away from prayer, from spiraling incense, far away from entrenched faith, from cool benediction, from hope, from hopelessness. With spangled frailty, I still reach out as the dull, dismal horizon stretches, as the dull, dismal horizon stretches to the thin films of the deepening night, while the hide and seek sun rays peep, while the hide and seek sun rays peep at the glistening edge. I wait as life goes on. I wait as always for the answer, as always, one thumb away from my clutch. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that poem that creatively contrasts the vibrant and rich shringar of the Indian woman with her dull life of explosion, expansion, and extinction. The sad, vapid life that this woman lives in your poems feels like a betrayal, of whom, by whom we know not. But yet, this woman lives on. So, your poem has as much Indian freshness as much it has that global satire. So, thank you so much, ma'am. Now,
Thank you.
Now, I would like to welcome our next poet, Rachel Bari, ma'am. Dr. Rachel Bari was born in Malaysia. She is a professor of English and director of Prasarang, the publication division of Kuvempu University, and lives in Shimonga. She is an author, editor, and creative writer. Her areas of interest include gender and feminism. Her writing is most academic, which she terms as professional hazard. She has published articles and monographs. Her latest book of poems is titled Body, Mind, and Other Poems. We are so honored to have you, ma'am.
Is she here? Is Rachel Bari ma'am here? I think she is not here. I think one of the poets has requested, so you can put in Punita.
Okay, sir.
Rachel Bari ma'am has not been able to join, so we can invite her towards the end. Punita Jha ma'am, if you are there.
Yes, I'm here. I'm present. Thank you so much, Binod.
Thank you, ma'am. Please. Yes.
Ma'am, please let me welcome you. Now I would like to welcome our next poet, Punita Jha, ma'am. Dr. Punita Jha was born and brought up in Jamshedpur, Jharkhand, a senior professor in the University Department of English, Lalit Narayan Mithila University. Her critical articles have appeared in and Indian publications. She is a member of the editorial board of a number of international and national journals. She has a number of articles, poems, and 3 books published to her credit. We are honored to have you, ma'am.
Thank you, Meenakshi. At the outset, I would like to thank Professor Binod Mishra and, of course, late Charu Sheel Singh sir, and his family members are there. So I would like to welcome them on my behalf also. And our chief guest for this evening is Menika ma'am. So it was nice listening to you. And of course, I would like to thank Meenakshi, Ranganathan, and all the other professors and research scholars who are present to be here. My poem are very simple, and it's about the motherly, uh, affection for a mother for a child. The poem today, which I'm going to read, is about my son. When I became pregnant the second time, thoughts, they used to just flow over. And in that flowing thought, I'd written this poem when I was traveling. I felt that I was traveling. So I want all of you, I want to carry you to the world of stars and sky. Actually, that time I used to read a number of poems, and a few lines I would like to quote from my Singh. She is a poetess. I read a poem of Falling Star, and that was the poem, which motivated me most. I saw, just a few lines, and then I'll read my poem. I saw amongst bed of stars that twinkled in the sky a falling star like one of ours that fell from way up high. And then the lines I would not like to read because it will be too long. Gifts from heaven, that's what they are. So, that is, where I got the motivation. And my poem today is on courage and wisdom, and myself and my son's son, first son, he's my eldest son, we are traveling through the sky in search for a bright star. So now, back to my poem, that is courage and wisdom. I have courage by my side, and now I'm in search of wisdom, and I have to get that star for me. So this is the poem. I went hunting wild within the Amorian sky for a celestial brightest night among the starry pregnant dragonflies. May my tacit quest be not tainted, tarnished, smeared, or slandered. Wind swept, I glide, courage by my side. Flashes of light come and go, starry heaven bursts her flow. I am lost among the glowing heights. Who is the brightest, celestial, outright, and ethereal? I questioned myself while hunting wild. Courage helps his mother in her celestial search for wisdom. Long had I traveled for you on the wide expanse of the darkened view, when all at once a glowing star comes close to me. Wisdom looked at me with a mild surmise. Silently, the two brothers met. Courage and wisdom looked at each other. Back we traveled together through the realms of silver and gold, of heaven and its mysteries. Down we came, landed on the earth. Here, wisdom was to be earthborn. Amidst the moon and stars, scintillating, dazzling, flashing, glittering, and sparkling, full of passion and delight. Roused by none, courage and wisdom were mine. This is a very short experience, which I had a dream. And that dream today it is fulfilled. So now I'm a grandmother also, and I'm proud to say that my sons, they are all excellent. And last conference, I had read a poem on my daughter, which I would like to read later on due to paucity of time. I don't want to get engaged. I hope Binodji knows, I read it in a conference. So most of my poems are published in journals also, in Indian English journals. So thank you, Meenakshi. Thank you for giving me the allotted time. I hope you
Thank you
enjoyed
so
it.
much, ma'am. Thank Thank you for your poem. It's a glowing tale of how courage and wisdom two brothers meet and of their mother. A beautiful personification of two indispensable qualities that a person needs in their life, in that wild journey of their life. So it's a beautiful expression of your experience, and we all are really grateful for that you have shared it with us. So thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
So let's just allow me 1 second. Right. So we are back again. And now I would like to welcome our next poet in line, Candice Louisa Dakin, ma'am. Dakan, sorry. Dakan. Candice Louisa Dakan is a French born psychotherapist and writer living in America. She is also a senior editor of Indie Blue Publishing, an American feminist micropress. IB recently published We Will Not Be Silenced. Smitten This is What Love Looks Like, and As the World Burns. Dakan edited Indian poet Devika Mathu's debut surrealistic collection, Crimson Skins, and co-edited with poet-editor Megha Sood, The Kali Project, Invoking the Goddess Within, Indian Women Speak. Previously, Dakan was a director of publishing in Europe. She also writes poetry, and her last collection, Pinch the Lock, was published by Finishing Line Press. Her first love is social justice and helping others. Since ma'am was not able to join us in person, she has sent us a beautiful video reading her poem.
My name is Candice Louisa Dakan, and I'm one of the 25 female poets in the Cuckoo in Crisis, published by Atkins Publishing House. I would like to thank Binod, Mishra, and everyone else who is involved in this beautiful work. Today I'll be reading one of my poems that's called The Affiliate of Memory. Die is cast, thrown and tumbled. Woman is born a girl. Girl is born a woman. When she is young, learning to tie bows in sensible brown shoes, spit and shine, tighten pigtail, don't get your bobby socks dirty. What does she know of her future? What hour marks her turning, her awareness, the temporal fragility of her succulent heart? Will she be like her grandmother, a blubbering mess, able to condone slithered evil by the hands of her husband? Will she be like her mother, a loyal lover, seeking a man willing to hold her closer to the sun? Melt, Icarus, melt, till you can stand the radiance no longer. But what of your child, the one you think is poison and deadly nightshade? What will she be like, in that wicked knowing, when afterbirth is dried and shell chewed to starlight, she stands tall and unversed like a question mark. When she wants to scream out, why don't you feel like I do? Why don't you want to scream when everyone else is laughing? She is the burnt slice of toast grown cold on countertop. Everyone else is easy in the sun like white wheat and blackcurrant. They shine in their shingled merge, children threading their way through oboe chairbacks like grass snakes. The meadow flowers droop in her sweaty palm. She'd gift her indigo heart if it were taken or sensical, learning many years ago, don't lend what you can't live without. She has enough air to fake it for 15 minutes, then she's out, caught in the idling headlamps of smoky cars. No destination, just drive sufficiently far to escape those pitch eyes drained of regard. The ease with which you are, the ease with which you are, in the loosening of your need, an affiliate of memory, putting glass stars along with sugar, watching you lean now so evenly toward tomorrow's sun. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your poem. It's a sincere poetic reflection of what happens to a girl child and how things unravel her and her personality. How she remains in the dark, but about a future that might lead her down a road of vacuity. My personal favorite lines, and I quote here, She is the burnt slice of toast grown cold on countertops. And again, quote, don't lend what you cannot live without, unquote. In the first one, you have beautifully turned a daily life domestic casualty, into a metaphor to reflect a real life, a gender's real life casualty. In another, the poet in you speaks truth. We really miss you, ma'am. We really hope you could have joined us, but we really are grateful for your poem. Now, I would like to welcome our next
Yes,
poet.
Meenakshi,
Yes, sir.
Anjana Basu ma'am should also be there.
Yes, sir.
So I think perhaps you skipped.
Yes, sir. I think, sir, sir, just give me 1 second. I'll check.
Please.
Yes, sir. Anjana Basu, ma'am, of course. I'm very sorry, ma'am. In the confusion, I skipped it. I'm really sorry.
So I think ma'am is there. Yes.
Ma'am, are you there?
Anjana ma'am, are you there?
I think she has left. I do not know. I think.
Ma'am, you have her number. Please just give a call.
I don't have a direct number. Let me see if I have one. Anjana Basu. Let me see if I have.
Okay, okay. Meanwhile, we can take up some other poet.
Okay, sir. Sure, sir. So next in line we have Kalyani Dikshit, ma'am. I would like to welcome you, ma'am. Dr. Kalyani Dikshit was born in Lucknow. She is an associate professor in Dayanand Anglo Vedic PG College, Lucknow, India. She is the recipient of Adarsh Vidya Saraswati Rashtriya Puraskar, a National Award of Excellence 2018. She is in the editorial board of various international journals like the Criterion, Literary Confluence, View, International Journal of English Studies and Literature, and Vidyavardhan. Her first book was published from Riga, Latvia, Germany. Her second book was published from Jaipur, India. Her third book on contemporary Indian English drama is ready for publication. Her poems, published in significant anthologies, have received wide acclaim. We are delighted to have you, ma'am.
Thank you, Meenakshi. Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Binod Mishra ji and to Dr. Charu Singh ji, late Dr. Charu sir, uh, Menaka ma'am, and all the poets present here, and all the people who are giving their precious time to us. The poem that I'm going to recite here is uh, I would say I would like to share a secret with you all that I love gardening, and since I love gardening, I maintain a very beautiful garden in my mother's house before marriage, and this poem belongs to that period. And the poem is very short, but it is very dear to my heart. The poem is like this: much awaited hues and odors, much awaited inward smiles. Much awaited hues and odors, much awaited inward smiles, a rare souling and a throbbing happiness approached with you. Red color of hibiscus, charming genius, juicy oranges, moonlit jasmine, dancing tulsi, and erect araucaria filled my life sketch with vital colors and words. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for adding that poetic magic to this event. I just realized that humans are more particularly certain and sure about accidents happening suddenly in life than they are ready for sudden magic in life. Thank you so much, ma'am, for that swift, sprightly poem that not only sounds but feels magic. Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I would like to welcome our next poet, Mandira Ghosh, ma'am. Uh, Mandira Ghosh was born in Calcutta. She is the recipient of Bharat Nirman Award and also Women Achievers Award 2020 in the field of literature by Asian Literary Society. She has published and edited 17 books titled Aroma, New Sun, Song in a City, The Cosmic Dance of Shiva, Folk Music of the Himalayas, Mahatma Gandhi Tryst with Satyagraha, Poetry and Science Opposites Meet, Krishna in India, thought, literature and music, impact of famine on Bengali literature, Banaras, the sacred city in verse and hymns, and others. She is the guest editor of the Poets of India, special issue of the 7th Query, the Swansea magazine from Wales, and is awarded with a senior fellowship of Ministry of Culture, Government of India. She has received the Editor's Choice Award twice by the International Society of Poets and has been elected into the International Poetry Hall of Fame. She is presently Treasurer of the Poetry Society, India. She has also received Shaheed Bhagat Singh Bravery Award for her excellent contribution to education. We welcome you, ma'am. I would just like to request others to please put their devices on mute because there are some disturbances. I request the others to please mute your devices because there are a few disturbances. Thank you so much. Ma'am, please. Mandira, ma'am? Oh, I'm so sorry. She has sent us a video. I totally forgot. I was so involved into it. So she couldn't be with us, and she has again sent us her video reading her poem, which is beautiful again.
Good evening, friends. I thank the organizers, especially Monisha and Binod Mishra for inviting me to the event. Reading some poems by noted poems in the book in the anthology Cuckoo in Crisis. The poem which I have selected is Women of the Hills. Is a very short poem. Now I am going to read the poem. Once again, thank you so very much. The sun is not too bright today to dry their clothes, so they put on wet clothes to be blamed by their men. Knitting has to be stopped. A neighborhood girl is dead. She counts time through the whole of the middle. Another hard day to count. Another hard day to count. As there is another birth in the neighborhood, another cry, another wail, as she is a girl child. Outside, snow is falling. Urban men tourist around with joy and laughter around. The widow goes on knitting new mufflers for the daughters yet to be born. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your poem, Women of Hills. It is on a serious topic. It's significant how you have chosen to talk about the blame and mind games in just a few words. And it's true. What you note here, how the world moves on when a woman struggles, sometimes wails in those exact same moments in some very different dimension. Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I would like to welcome our next poet, Valsa George, ma'am. Valsa George is a retired professor of English from Nirmala College, Muva, Tupuza. She lives in a suburb in Arena Kulam. I'm very sorry if I pronounce it wrong, but please forgive me, ma'am, if I pronounce it wrong.
Ernakulam.
Ernakulam, Kerala. She has over 850 poems posted in international websites, also some in reputed periodicals and journals. She has also, to her credit, 4 anthologies of poems: Beats, Drop and Feather, Rainbow Hues and Entwining Shadows, 2 of which are available on Amazon. One of her poems, A Space Odyssey, has been included in the CBSE syllabus for the 8th standard students in the country for last 2 years. Another poem, I Fractured Identity, is prescribed for the undergraduate students in the country of Philippines. We are truly delighted to have you, ma'am.
Hi, friends. I feel so overwhelmed by this wonderful show, and I feel rather nervous to be in this August gathering. Actually, I am not a very reputed poet. I began very late. Actually, it was an accident. I was bedridden for about 3-4 months, close to my retirement. And then, to while away my time, I started writing poetry. Later, it became a passion for me. And finally, I could write a few poems, but most of them are very simple and they are centered on nature. Here, I am going to recite my poem, A Woman. It is actually a very simple poem that doesn't require much explanation. So I shall just go straight into the recitation. A woman. As I beheld a flower of rare beauty, in the silence choked heart of wilderness, the facsimile of a pretty woman came alive from the coagulated heap of images. A woman, isn't she God's supreme handiwork? An animated form of chiseled art, a joy to behold, a figure of curvaceous ups and downs, God's beautiful calligraphy, her skin glowing as satin, hands and fingers of creamy softness, eyes reflecting love and gentleness, voice, music and sweet, moving with measured cadence, walking with fluid ease, and one who polishes the rough edges of life. A loving daughter to her parents, an adorable maid to her man, a forgiving mother to all, the fountain spring of new life, a marvel of creation, a miracle worthy of adulation. But alas, a treasure rarely valued. She is often branded by many as frail and fickle, infirm and impish. But how empty is a man's life who hasn't known a woman as a mother, sister, daughter, a lover, a companion, or wife. Thank you so much. Thank you particularly to Dr. Binod Sharma, Lakshmi Verma, and all those people who have organized this wonderful show. This is my first experience, and I feel really privileged. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for your poem that takes the task of appreciating a woman in all her forms and roles. A woman is often cursed to be that unfortunate atlas who holds up the sky for ungrateful people around her. Your poem reminds us of that, and I'm sure, everyone listening to this poem would be giving thanks to someone who has not been grateful to. I know secretly I was. So thank you so much, ma'am, for that beautiful poem. Thank you so much. Now,
Meenakshi, just a minute. Those who have not been able to, you can keep repeating their names so that whenever
sure,
they
sure.
connect.
One second.
I mean, Anjana Basu.
Anjana, ma'am, you are there?
I just tried. I tried. She has switched off her phone. I have messaged her,
Okay.
but somehow she's not responding.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Thank you.
Rachel Bari, ma'am. Ma'am, you are there?
Kalyani is there. Kalyani might be having her number. Kalyani Rajan.
Yes, sir. I'm just messaging her.
Please do.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So, meanwhile, we proceed further.
Okay, sir. Right. Seema Jain, ma'am. Let me welcome you, ma'am. Seema Jain is a bilingual poet, a short story writer, and a translator who has recently retired as Dean Academics, Associate Professor, and Head PG Department of English from Kanya Mahavidyalaya, Jalandhar. After having taught English literature and language for 38 years. She has acted as chairperson and convener at many international and national conferences, has widely presented and published research papers. Her published books include four books of poems, Silent Letters, and Apology to My Father, Mom, K. Punk, uh, and Dhrup Chhau, a recent book of Hindi to English translation, Poetic World of Narendra Mohan, and two edited books on women empowerment and higher education and cross-cultural nuances. She is associated with many poetic forums, and her poems and short stories have been widely published, translated, anthologized, and recited during international poetry conferences, webinars, and on TVs and radios. She has received many awards, Purvottar Hindi Sahitya Academy being one of them. She is the founder president of Litspark. You are so welcome, ma'am. We are honored to have you.
Thank you so much, Minakshi, for this introduction. And first of all, at the outset, I would like to express my gratitude to Professor Dr. Binod Mishra and late Professor Charu Sheel Singh ji for conceptualizing this wonderful anthology and for executing it. Though Dr. Charu Sheel Singh ji is not there with us, but uh, still, I would like to acknowledge the work that he has done along with Dr. Binod Mishra and the way the concept must have been, visualized. So I'm thankful to them for it and for the wonderful anthology that we all have in hand today. I am also thankful to Menka Shiv Dasani ji uh, for her beautiful and enlightening discourse on Indian English women poets and poetry. It was a very exhaustive and illuminating discourse. Thank you so much, Menka ji, for that. It was really, really warm. It was really, really very welcome. I learned so many things from your discourse. And also, here I would like to say one more thing. Dr. Mishra, I am indebted to you and Professor Charushil Singh ji for one more thing, which I must put on record here. This anthology compiled by you, in fact, gave me an idea and made me feel the need for compiling more and more of women poets who are currently writing in English in India, Indian women poets. And with that, I have launched on to a project of compiling more and more women poets, Indian English women poets who are writing at present. And with that, I have received contributions from about 116 poets, and I'm in the process of compiling their poems. So the credit for that goes to you because I felt that your anthology is has a different range and focus and vision. It is focused on women issues and also it is intensive. There are the number of poets is less, but the number of poems is more. There, the number of poems might be less, but the number of poets is more, and the focus is not just on women issues, but on the sensibility of women. So, thank you so much for germinating this idea in me of compiling this anthology.
Thank you,
And
ma'am.
yeah, and now I would like to come to my poem. I was in two minds when I was asked to choose one poem for reciting on this platform. I wanted to recite another poem earlier that was Why My Lord. It's an adaptation of My Last Duchess by Robert Browning. And here it is from the Duchess's point of view, that the Duchess to the Duke. But then I realized that for reciting, perhaps the other poem would be better. So I chose this poem, The Sprouting Seed. So here I go with my poem, The Sprouting Seed. Menka ji talked a lot about women issues, and I'm honored that she quoted from one of my poems, Cages. which talks about the lack of freedom that women feel. Sometimes, they feel imprisoned and caged. That feeling, I think, at some time or the other, all of us experience in different ways. This poem is also about a very hackneyed subject, though, that is female feticide, but I have tried to project it in a different light with the help of imagery. So here it goes: the sprouting seed. I was trying to peep through the earth's hard crust. I was trying to peep through the earth's hard crust, breaking silently through my hard shell. Rain and sun soaked, I germinated slowly, arms outstretched, eager to emerge from darkness into light. But the sudden gathering of thick clouds, ominous thunder, howling winds, and pattering hailstones sent a cold shiver down my spine, as though the entire nature was swiftly turning a conspirator to unleash its sooty design against my tiny being. Then the benumbing blow of a bulky boulder ripped me apart and crushed me under its gigantic mass. Why? Again and again and again, an innocent infant life is inhumanly consigned to the bin of silence eternal, even before being born into this beautiful world. So, this was my poem, The Sprouting Seed. Thank you so much for making me a part of this wonderful evening. I'm enjoying listening to the poems of each and every poet, which are really fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Mishra, for organizing this beautiful event and making me a part of it. Thank you to all the poets once again.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think whosoever will come across this poem would feel the goosebumps rising. The poem begins on a very gentle and warm note, but suddenly shifts to chaos with thick clouds, ominous thunders, and howling winds, leaving us all with the guilt of allowing an innocent life to die. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your poem that has the potential to break a careless slumber. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Binakshi. Thank you.
Now I would like.
Meenakshi,
Yes, sir.
Anjana Basu ma'am is with us.
Sure. Rachel Barry ma'am is also there. I think I saw her. So should I start with Rachel ma'am or?
Sir, you are mute, sir. You are muted.
If you don't mind, could I read now? Because I'll have to leave.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Ma'am, please allow me to welcome you.
Yes, sir.
Anjana ma'am is here, so you can introduce Anjana ma'am and then she will.
Yes.
Rachel ma'am has also joined. Ma'am, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anjana Basu ma'am works as an advertising consultant in Calcutta. The BBC has broadcast one of her short stories and her poems have appeared in Punjabi. The Antigonish Review, the Edinburgh Review, and the Salzburg Review have also featured her work. Her first poem was chosen for the Illustrated Weekly by the then book editor Kamla Das. She has to date published 10 novels and 2 books of her poetry. She reviews for Outlook. We are honored to have you, ma'am.
Let me announce here that Anjana ma'am is also a part of my first anthology, that is Exiled Among Natives. Ma'am, you remember that?
Yes, I remember that. And congratulations to you and to Charu Singh for this
Thank you, ma'am.
attempt. I think it is a great effort and a good anthology. I would also like to congratulate Menaka Shivdasani for her insightful talk on women's literature and the problem with being called a woman poet. Thank you very much for that. What I will read now is a poem called Puja Paraplui, which is about the chaos that happens before the goddess comes to life and what women and others have to face in the rain. It's a very short poem. Puja Paraplui. Renoir's parapluie is battling spoke for spoke with the selfie stick canvas sagging overhead and the light yellow in that tired evening. Rain on the goddess's face. Workers pushing through both stick and spoke, snagging a lace or a sleeve with a curse thrown in. Someone pushes back a stray hair and outlines a lip and raises the stick again to capture goddess not yet made flesh. Or thrusts out an arm and the crowd clogs in a confusion of umbrellas and frames unframed, while a child wails for ice cream, though nothing really moves except the fine dust of rain sifting through. That is mine. It perhaps talks about the way things are when a goddess is coming to life and the way people are strive to get home and it's a rainy evening. It works for women and actually it works for everybody, but there it is.
Thank you so much,
Thank
ma'am,
you,
for your
ma'am.
captivating poem. It beautifully uses the pictorial context of the French artist Pierre-Auguste Renoir's painting, The Umbrellas, and I just love it personally. Poetically, it poetically expresses the rainy landscape of the mood during puja, and its creative ambience is just so beautiful. In which the idols of the goddesses are prepared. It's very impressionistic and Indian in its sensibility. It's just beautiful. Thank you so much, ma'am.
So now
Thank
Rachel
you.
Bari ma'am should be invited.
Yes. Um, yes. Just one second. So now I would like to welcome our next poet, Rachel Bari ma'am. Dr. Rachel Bari was born in Malaysia. She is a professor of English and director of Prasarang, the publication division of Kuwempu and University, and lives in Shimonga. She is an author, editor, and creative writer. Her areas of interest include gender and feminism. Her writing is mostly academic, which she terms as professional hazard. She has published articles and monographs. Her latest book of poems is titled Body, Mind, and Other Poems. Thank you so much, ma'am. We are delighted to have you.
Thank you, Meenakshi, and thank you, Professor Binod Mishra. And my apologies for logging in late. I completely forgot about it until Kalyani Rajan was on the mobile trying to get me, so I got back home soon, and I'm sorry for this. And this is a wonderful event, and it's going on very well. I'm very happy and proud to be a part of it. I wouldn't take much time. I would read a short poem of mine called The Spice. And I think this would be familiar to every person, not only women, but also men. Okay, here it goes. It's titled Spice. The coriander seeds in the old iron cauldron emanated a familiar fragrance familiar to the Indian nose. They exercise a common one in an Indian kitchen. The pitter-patter sound of the seeds as it browned brought with it the knowledge that it's ready to be ground, kept ready for tomorrow and the day after. The kitchen emanates many fragrances, and each fragrance an invitation to anger, love, desire, boredom, sensuality, adventure.
Pepper, honey, the combination for cough is also for spice of life. Haldi and milk brings in healing and subtle romance. And doesn't the onion bring in rules of abstinence? The fragrance of cardamom, that of sensuality? Name the spice in the Indian kitchen and you know the Indian room. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that delicious poem that excites not only our olfactory but gustatory senses, of every Indian and every food lover. It excellently catches the aroma of emotions and healthcare while subtly informing the readers of the importance of partnership in a relationship in the closing lines. A
Thank you.
message which I think is essential to be told. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Actually, yes, ma'am. I enjoyed this poem very much, very much. I kept
Thank
on
you, sir.
reading it so many times
Thank
because you have
thank you so much.
lacerated everything there.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I would like to inform the entire house here that our book Cuckoo in Crisis has not only been reviewed by Anjana Basu ma'am, but then the review has appeared in Setu. I'll send the link to everyone so that everyone can have a reading of it. Thank you. Yes, Meenakshi, you can go ahead.
Yes, sir. So now I would like to welcome our next poet, Molly Joseph ma'am. Dr. Molly Joseph retired as the head of the Department of English, St. Xavier's College, Alua, Kerala, and served as Professor Communicative English at FISAT Mukanor, Kochi. She has published 9 books of poems: Aching Melodies, December Dews, Autumn Leaves, Mina's Musings, Firefly Flickers, It Rains, The Bird with Wings of Fire, It Rains, Where Cicadas Sing in Mirth, and Hidumbi. She has won several awards and accolades, which include Wordsmith Award 2018 and India Women Achievers Award 2019 by Asian Literary Society in New Delhi. Galaxy Academy Award in Experimental Poetry for this book in 2020. Her 2 new books, Water Singing Over the Stones and Adventures of Billu, Dillu, and Trillu, have been published by Authors Press. Thank you so much, ma'am. We are honored to have you here.
Thank you, Meenakshi. I hope I'm audible enough. Am I? Okay. I love your interpretative, intuitive anchoring, Meenakshi. I love it.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
My pranams to late Charu Singh, who has the idea. What a wonderful idea it was to have a very inclusive Cuckoo in Crisis, an anthology of poems, and very well executed by the wonderful team by Professor Binod Mishra. So kudos to you. And I was enjoying every minute I was spending here, because here we are, birds of the same feather, flocking together. Friends, being a bilingual poet, living in the interiors of Kerala, I rub across womanhood. I mean, a species of womanhood who just struggle to make their living, facing so many hazards, losing their self-esteem, self-respect. And I can say I was teaching in a women's college for more than 3 decades. There also, I came across young girls lacking the kind of self-esteem, because they were, as Simone de Beauvoir put it, you are born a woman and you become one, chocked under the yoke of patriarchy. So my poems have been riveting on the kind of self-esteem I can build into them, be it my students, or be it me, the helping maids I come across, or the people, the very ordinary I brush across every day. After all, We are all products of our own environment. Not wasting time, here I go into my poem. Oh woman, you have it in you to stand up against the wind, undaunted, when it blows harsh on you, merciless, derailing, devastating. No, not alone you are. Or what if you are alone? In you lie the power to sprout, even on arid plains. You, the Mother Nature, ever renewing, shedding all the counters, in tandem with the eclipse of the moon, to emerge anew, afresh, on yonder crested hills. The ever alive fountainhead you are, sprinkling kindness, care, and love on whoever comes around, the herd of tired pilgrims. When the world gropes in darkness and frets in dismay, drooping, you shower radiance divine, igniting the igniting, guiding light. The barren blooms, birds flutter, nature rouses in your magnetic touch. The river that flows, covering caverns, huts, and wounds. You flow, you smile. Your burns turn to learning lessons for you to walk through fire with faith and hope. Strong and soulful you are, O woman. You have it in you to stand up against the wind when it blows harsh on you. Before I wind up, let me thank my dear friend Lakshmi Sri. I called her fondly Sri. She only asked me or persuaded me to contribute, brought this into my attention to contribute to this reputed anthology. Thank you, Sri. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that motivating poem that reminds every woman of her inner strength that they have. It's a poem that encouragingly documents certain traits in us, which in times of crisis would reassuringly, help us hang in there. Also, encourage us to stand. So, thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, everyone.
Now, I would like to welcome our next poet, Silka Joseph, ma'am. Zilka Joseph was born in Mumbai. She was nominated twice for a Pushcart and for a Best of the Net, has won many honors and has been featured on NPR Michigan Radio and several international online interviews. Her works have appeared in many reputed reviews and journals. Her chapbook, Lands I Live In and What Dread, were nominated for a PEN Pen America Beyond Borders and a Pushcart Award, respectively. Shark Blue Search of Flame, her book of poems published by Wayne State University, was a finalist for the Forward Indies Book Award. She was awarded a Zell Fellowship and the Elsie Coy Lee Scholarship from the University of Michigan. Her third chapbook, Sparrow and Dust, has just been published in 2021. We are honored to have you, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, Jilka.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. Professor Mishra, I thank you so much for doing this wonderful project, and my thoughts go out to the family of Professor Charu Sheel Singh, late Charu Sheel Singh ji. I just want to say pay my respects to him and to his family. And I want to especially thank Meenakshi for, I am sure, doing the hardest work all around to put all this together and send us emails and keep us all connected. These have been difficult times. It's been hard to stay connected. And it gives me great pleasure to be part of this and to be able to see many of you. And especially because I've moved away and now I live in Ann Arbor, my connection is very deep to Kolkata. And since my parents passed away several years ago, it has been very difficult to return to India. So this feels very special. Special thank you also to Usha and Pramila, especially to Usha Kela, who connected me with Dr. Mishra. So very grateful for that and grateful to be part of this wonderful world of women's writing. I also want to say hello and pay my respects to Menka, whose wonderful speech was especially insightful and grounding, very grounding. Thank you so much. All right, without further ado, I will read a short poem from this collection from Cuckoo in Crisis. It seems that the image of birds in the cage, particularly, is very common in our writing because it's so symbolic of the various struggles we go through. And as Molly Joseph just mentioned, the sense of having to break out, to resist, to rebel is very much part of my writing. In fact, I have a brand new book out called In Our Beautiful Bones, which really pushes back against colonialism and racism. So this poem does something like that, but more in the terms of the our women's struggles. And it's called Who Reads the Palm Leaf? Because faith is such an important uh, force in our Indian world. So it's kind of pushing back. Who reads the palm leaf? These palm leaf predictions. Why be afraid, my friend? You know you can fly away. These brittle veins close like wings, then open with secrets. Leaf fans smudge blue with rain. Sanskrit sinuous language, words woven with ink. Writhing stories thick and wild, like my hair, curls. They want to tame, tie down, or cut if I let them. But I will fight like a cat. No one will marry you, unruly one. Unlucky one, they say to me. Often you go to the pavement fortune teller. Take me with you. He spreads the ancient leaves, sings, pick one, oh sweet Mittu. And his jewel green parakeet of prophecy, whose wings he has clipped, steps out of the metal cage to pick a leaf just for me. Friend, never believe anyone who keeps a bird in a cage. I can read those whirls and curlicues. What does he know of my spirit? We were not born to be tamed. This loop of words on the last leaf here is not a noose. It is the sky calling. Thank you so much. Wonderful to be here.
Thank you, ma'am, for that fascinating poem, which is very melodic and has a very amusing tone. It humorously engages the reader's attention while addressing a very serious issue that holds people as superstitious slaves. Society often uses them as apparatus to predefine humans and primarily women and their identities and destinies. So, thank you so much, ma'am, for that poem. Now I would like to welcome our next poet, Teja ma'am. Mrs. Shrija Mohandas is an English language soft skill trainer and social counselor by profession, as well as a media artist. Having published articles and short stories in magazines and newspapers before, she recently published her first novel, Under the Tamarind Tree, the genre being fiction. We heartily welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, Meenakshi. I hope I'm audible. Can you hear me? Okay, so let me start off with Meenakshi. That's some fantastic comparing on your part. So I should start off with that. And I'd like to thank Professor Mishra and late Sri Charu Sheel Singh, for putting together this lovely anthology. I'm so proud to be part of this project. I've been listening to some fantastic poems by poets who are so good and who are so humble at the same time. You know, it's a very, very learning experience, and lovely listening to you, Menaka ma'am. Truly inspiring. And of course, as I said, I'm very proud to be part of this very, very esteemed circle of creative minds. Uh, I'm here today and to read out a short poem of mine, as Meenakshi insisted. So I'm just driving home that point. But I also believe that we are free to a large extent. In fact, I feel we are very free because we are here today sharing our thoughts through our poems with, not really bothering about who thinks or who has anything to say about them. We are here to express ourselves, and that's why I'm here today. I've picked out a simple poem of a not so simple creature we call woman. So I start off with, woman. When God made woman, did he really have a plan? I can't help wondering, like he did when he made man. For there's so much in a female, the sweet, the sour, the dark. She's soft, she's hard, she's vulnerable, a contradiction that leaves a mark. She cries when she's happy and smiles when she's torn, melts faster than golden butter, and yet is unmovable as a heavy stone. When she loves, it's like there's no tomorrow. It's with her body and her soul. Stays erect when broken, or digs herself into a hole. There may be a lot that she doesn't know, but yet she finds her way. A living, breathing jigsaw puzzle that other people want to play. When God made woman, did he really have a plan? I can't help wondering, like he did when he made man. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that contemplative poem, that questions the creation of the woman in a way the classics have often written about the creation of man and not women. And you have
Thank
done that for us. I believe it's imperative to acknowledge, appreciate, and admire the variegated beauties, moods, and essences of a woman and muse upon the relationship between the God and its creation, the woman. So your
Thank you
beautifully
so much.
discusses that. Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I would like to welcome our next poet, Malvika Mukherjee, ma'am. Malvika Mukherjee, an academician, author, poet, and social worker, was born in Jamshedpur, Jharkhand. She has worked in many academic institutes in India. Her English poetry collection, Kinetic of English, and English novel, Your Special Gift, are well admired and well reviewed by many literary groups. Her Bengali novel, Amar Nirashito Devata, Bengali short story collections, Kichu Shoti, Kichu Golpo, China Golpo, and Shur, are well appreciated by readers and well reviewed in prominent Bengali journals. We are honored to have you, ma'am.
So some microphones are still on, so let them be
Yes.
muted so that we can hear Malvika ma'am properly. Yes, Malvika ma'am, please.
Thank you, Meenakshi. Can you hear us? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for that introduction. I'm pampered, in fact, and my sincere thanks to Professor Binod Mishra and, of course, late Charu Singh ji for bringing up this wonderful anthology, Cuckoo in Crisis. Here, I would like to say that my friends of Facebook and other literary world, they appreciated this name very much, Cuckoo in Crisis. Of course, Shakespeare has said what's in a name, but I believe and they believe there is a lot in name. And Cuckoo in Crisis is a perfect name for this anthology. Also, I would like to say a small thing about myself that I was never a student or Means I never studied literature, English literature, and never taught English literature. Basically, I'm from science stream, and I did my means masters from IIT Kharagpur, and always in research in metallurgy and all that. But science was always my profession, and poetry my passion. I compare poetry with oxygen, being a scientific person, because it gives really the urge to live, and it's like oxygen in my life. Poetry is my soulmate. So here, I don't write much on feminism and that type of things because, frankly speaking, I never felt that kind of restriction in my life. I was lucky for that, but I know others are not that lucky. But I write in complex, generally complex human bonds. I write on that subject more. So, without wasting time, I will read my poem here, which is titled Desire, Dream, and Delusion. This is because my latest poetry collection is also named Desire, Dream, and Delusion, which is published this year only around this during this pandemic, and it is also doing in Amazon very well. So I read that poem. Here is my poem, Desire, Dream, and Delusion. Desire. At times, you are as mysterious as the smile of a dreaming infant, as calm as a chilly winter night, as throbbing as a summer storm, as maddening as spring breeze. But you seem to be so close to my heart. What is that bond that let us not depart? So easily you get all my untold words, all my unsung melodies. Discover the non-existing beauty of my eyes, whispering of my body, all those meaningless fuss. What is that bond between two of us? Next is dream. Lazy afternoons I spend counting footsteps, intoxicating full moon nights, only with my heartbeats. The frozen pathos of yearning and longing melts away by the magic wand of your touch. Then you take away all my pain, all my gloom. Alas, nothing but a pleasant dream, I assume. Then delusion. And then I wake up to watch, waning of my wonderful dream, praying bridge brings a deep sigh from the past. Full moon is doomed with weeping willows. Nothing prevails, nothing, only an infinite nothingness. Thanks. That was my poem, Desire, Dream, and Delusion. I really thanks to, I really want to say my thank you to Meenakshi and all other organizers who organized this event and make it successful. And of course, a big thanks to technology and Google Baba.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was a very interesting poem. It's really a ride from desire to dream and landing of this illusion. But it is very true because, often desires end in nothingness because a desire can only be a desire when it cannot be achieved. And you have beautifully brought out that wisdom into this poetic form. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Meenakshi, and thanks to all the team Cuckoo in Crisis.
Meenakshi, you can now announce Rasmi Bajaj's name. She has joined.
Okay, sure, sir.
Rasmi ma'am, I think you are there. Hello. Are you there, Professor Bajaj? Okay, she's yet not responding.
So should I continue? We'll wait for her, or we'll wait for me.
Now, once he comes, he must let us know. I think she had just texted me. You can proceed further.
Okay, okay, sir. Uh, so our next poet is Bharti Naik ma'am. Bharti Naik is a bilingual poet, critic, and translator from Bhubaneswar, India. Her poems have been published in more than 100 books, ebooks, and magazines of international and national repute, such as Amravati Poetic Prism, Tranquil Muse, Rock Pebbles, and the like. She has so far published 8 books. Some of her notable works are Padma Pada, Words Are Such Perfect Traitors, A Day for Myself, In the Realms of Love and Divinity, Rhythmic Radical Rhythm. She worked as an editor for Radical Rhythm Volume 3. She has been conferred with Sahitya Lahiri Award by International Cosmos Society India in 2018 and Star Ambassador of World Poetry and Art Philosophy K Poetica International Award in Literature by the World Poetry Conference in Bhatinda, Punjab, India in 2019. Welcome, ma'am. We are honored to have you. Uh, Bharti, ma'am. Good evening.
Am I audible?
Ma'am, you are audible, but your voice is echoing. I think there are two devices with you. That's why this echo is there.
Now it is all right?
Yes, ma'am. Wonderful. It's good.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Uh,
Am I audible now?
yes, ma'am. You are audible. Uh, so, am I audible or am I not audible? Okay. Then I think some issue is there now. Maybe we can write it in the chat box to let her know that we can hear her.
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Honorable Chief Editor of Cuckoo Crisis, Dr. Binod Mishra. Honorable Chief Guest, Menka Shivdasani ji, esteemed Minaki Verma ji, and all the esteemed poets, writers, and poetry lovers assembled here. It is my great honor and pride to present my poem before this prestigious forum. My hearty thanks and gratitude to the Chief Editor Dr. Binod Mishra ji and my homage to the departed soul of Dr. Charu Singh ji. It is a rare honor to be included in this prestigious anthology written by women writers of high class, touching upon the various aspects of a woman's life, her feelings, emotions, struggles, pains that are present from ancient to the modern age. She strives to break open the cage where she is forced to stay and flap her wings to fly and sing a song from her choked voice. Thank you. Now I am going to recite my poem. The name of my poem, From Baby Falak to Nirbhaya. From Baby Falak to Nirbhaya. Every day, there are stories of baby Falak and Nirbhaya. Every day, there are stories of baby Falak and Nirbhaya. Ravana, Dusasana, and Sakuni still roam freely without restraints. Nothing has changed thousands years after killing of Ravana or uprooting the hands of Dusasana
or smashing the thighs of Duryodhana. No kingdom of Ram has been established. Not a woman has become a Devi. No kingdom of Ram has been established. Not a woman has become a Devi. She is still a doll. She is still a doll. At home she is baby follower. At home she is baby follower. Outside she is Nirbhaya. Thanks to those fathers and brothers who fought for Nirbhaya in Delhi. Thanks to those men who can see a sister or a mother in a woman. Thanks to those writers and poets who can understand a woman's emotions. Thanks to those judges who give fair judgments. Thanks to those judges who give fair judgments. And thanks to friend Krishna. And thanks to friend Krishna who always extends his hand of help at the time of distress. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that poem that urgently reminds us once again to become
Thank you.
conscious of and take action to end sexual violence against women, irrespective of where they are and irrespective of who the persecutor is. To be a passive bystander is unacceptable. On the 25th of November, recognized as the International Day for the Elimination of the Violence Against Women, we saw the launch of the L'Oreal Paris Stand Up Against Street Harassment campaign. It is an imperative effort, and your poem reminds us of that. We appreciate on one hand, your poem sharply denounces the system that lets the persecutors roam freely, and how on the other it takes the effort to be grateful to those who stand in times of need. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Now I would like to welcome our next poet, Kalyani Rajan ma'am. Kalyani Rajan works as an assistant professor in English, Shahid Singh Evening College, University of Delhi, an educator and motivator by passion with more than a decade of experience. Her areas of interest include reading and researching Indian writing in English and translation, reviewing books of different genres, writing, reciting poetry in both Hindi and English, leading workshops on various aspects of teaching, learning, and following natural sciences and global politics. She co-edits Lapi Lazuli, an international literary journal. We are delighted to have you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Meenakshi ji, for this, for the entire introduction. And thanks a lot, Binod Mishra ji, for making me a part of this. It was an impromptu phone call regarding Lapis Lazuli, in which Sir is also a part. He is on the editorial board, and that's how I got introduced to the entire project. And I'm so delighted to be a part of it. Bharti ji, if you could please mute your mic. Yeah, thank you so much. So this poem that I'm going to read is was published in Sparrow newsletter, the Sound and Picture Archives for Research on Women, which is led by Ambai. Ambai is a Tamil writer, and my PhD is on Ambai. I'm pursuing my PhD at Jamia Millia Islamia right now. So I'm just going to read this poem for you and see how it goes. This is titled Healing. Women need to be cured urgently of an unfortunate dementia that's programmed into every woman as she comes of age. Man, men, manliness, masculinity. What nonsense! Some few seconds, fewer minutes of erections, sweats of short ecstasies, odors of energies ill spent, and teaspoonfuls of emotions, tablespoonfuls of desires, frames of wide bones and weird angles, bulks of muscles, handfuls of beards, and a few headfuls of hair, here and there. Yes, mountains of proven logic, skyfuls of great ambitions, profusions of professed passions, volumes of man-rhymed verses. Oh yes, tomes of self-certified intellect, varieties of fruitless doggedness, eons of perpetual forgetfulness, myriads of unilateral half-understood commitments, endless justifications and validations and those theorizations and propositions and what cosmic progressions and national integrations and such nuclear fissions and fusions, and not to forget a lifelong selective amnesia that plagues men of being born of the life force, unmanageable, indefatigable, inexplicably unfettered, the one beyond, the black hole woman. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your poem. A serious and much needed outcry to make women conscious of their worth and subconscious programming. It makes readers realize how one can be a victim, a psychological slave to patriarchy and its false, vitriolic, sensual dazzle while losing oneself. It's very important for us to realize that. So, thank you so much, ma'am.
Shukriya.
Now I would like to welcome our next poet, Nandini Sao, ma'am.
Meenakshi, Nandini has texted me. She is not able to join. So you can proceed and you can invite Ranu ma'am.
Sure, sir. Ma'am, please let me welcome you. Dr. Ranu Unyal is professor and head of English department at University of Lucknow, and author of 6 books. Her articles and book reviews have been widely published. Her poetry has appeared in reputed reviews and journals and several anthologies both in India and abroad. She has published 3 poetry collections, Across the Divide, December Poems, The Day We Went Strawberry Picking in Scarborough. She was on a writer's residency in 2019 at Uzbekistan. Her poems have been translated in Hindi, Oriya, Malayalam, Spanish, Urdu, and Uzbek languages. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining, and we are honored to have you.
Thank you, my dear, for inviting me. My humble tribute to late Professor Charu Sheel Singh, who was a great scholar, a poet, and a professor, much loved by his students and his friends. Beloved sir, you will always be remembered by us. Dear Professor Binod Mishra, thank you for inviting me to contribute to this beautiful book of poems, Cuckoo in Crisis. Thank you, dear Meenakshi, for moderating this session with warmth and vigor. It is indeed an auspicious moment for me to be in the midst of women poets, kindred spirits, who share and speak in multiple metaphors and flavors of their journey, celebrating the truth of a language, engaged in the chiseling of a new space. I'm going to read my poem, The Light of Faith. This poem looks at the world seething with rage and distrust and is a silent prayer. Hoping for a world of peace, hoping for a world where there is mutual coexistence and where there would be space for one and all. The light of faith. You saw the smoke billowing out of a temple and said, "This is not where I would like to stay." You tasted the blood spilling out of a church and said, "This is not where I would like to stay." You heard the gunshots streaking out of a mosque and said, "This is not where I would like to lay." You touched the children wilting in the park and said, "This is not where I would like to play." You read the streets smeared with fear, and said, "This is not where I would like to spend my day." You made him stand, held his hand, wiped his tears, and said, "I am with you, come what may." You looked beyond the soaring light, hugged her tight. "O land of mine, I am with you, come what may." Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that heartwarming poem that depicts the true beauty of having someone by your side. It is precious to have someone you can trust and hug at a time when, time of need, because honestly that is all the light of faith you need in this world. So thank you so much, ma'am, for that beautiful message and a beautiful poem.
Thank you.
Now I would like to welcome our next poet, uh, Jyotsna Sinha ma'am. Dr. Jyotsna Sinha is an associate professor in the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences at Motilal Nehru National Institute of Technology, Allahabad. She has a teaching experience of more than 25 years at various levels. As reviewer and as an editor, she has academically contributed to quite a few journals and conferences of national and international repute. She has presented and published numerous papers and chaired many national and international conferences. She was invited as a source person for communication skills and business English at University of Fiji. She contributed to quite a few journals and conferences of national and international. We are delighted to have you, ma'am.
Jyotsna ma'am, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Please, please.
Thank you, Meenakshi. Thank you for the introduction. Good evening. Oh, very good evening to all the esteemed poets, women poets rather. And at the outset, let me thank Dr. Mishra for giving me the opportunity and all the blooming and blossoming poets on this platform who are given an opportunity to express their feelings. Thank you so much. And I love Meenakshi, the way you are comparing. It's creditable. Thank you so much. So I'll just start off with a short poem of mine called Life Partners. I'm the one to hold you high in wind and rain, in storm and gale. I'll be by your side like a North Star, never to give up, never to lose hope. You can shut me up or hold me captive. Imprisoned I lie at the altar of faith. I am no more than an object in the closet. But I can think, I can feel, and I can move. Yes, I'm alive. Scraping life, I lunge ahead, ferreted out by the masters, evened out by time, and eclipsed by false praises. With equanimity, I bore your pleasures and your pains. My aches were not mine alone, neither were my triumphs. Unflinching, I trod behind you like a woman possessed. But now a flame consumes me, and I see a bright light devouring my being. I'm desolate, I'm dismal, I'm yours, and yours only. But you will never be all mine. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Mishra. And those lines, in the introductory lines that you had written for me, that speaks volumes regarding all the affiliations and all the longingness that we long to be associated with. All those feelings are here reflected again. Thank you, Doctor, once again.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that heartfelt poem that sincerely and deeply moves a reader or a listener to think of human bankruptcy in relationship. It is scarce when we have the honesty of a relationship, someone to stand with us and hold us through the ups and downs of life, or just be there for us to fall back on when we are alone. It's truly touching. Thank you so much, ma'am, for capturing that poem.
Thank you, thank you. Exactly these are the feelings. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to welcome our next poet, Savita ma'am. Uh, Miss Savita Tyagi was born and educated in India. She has been volunteering for a long time through special presentations in public schools, organizing classes at home and temple to teach children and adults of her community to learn and study their religion and culture. Currently, she facilitates a group through Zoom studying Gita and Upanishad through Sri Aurobindo's books. Some of her poems have been published in newspapers and magazines. Her poem, A Piano, was published in South Asian Review. Since then, she has contributed her poems for more than 20 poetry anthologies published by this group. Two of her self published poetry books include Backyard Poetry and Sitting on the Wellhead. We are delighted to have you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for giving me a chance to read my poem. It's just a wonderful presentation, and I must thank you, Bharti, also for introducing me to Dr. Binod Mishra. And Dr. Binod Mishra, you have done a wonderful job. And Meenakshi, I'm just speechless. You are just so good in presenting things, and it is just your graphic presentations are so good. I think you made them. I'm not sure, but whoever made Computer Expert, they are just so wonderful. So thank you again, everybody. And I just have a short poem. Um, just when we are young and we are growing up, the world belongs to us, and we think we own everything, and it's all us and me and this. But as we keep on moving in our journey, we realize that it's all the blessings that are given to us, and what comes to us goes back again. But this is just a simple emotion that struck me once, and I wrote this small poem. The title of the poem is My Chamber is Empty. My chamber is empty. Give me back my dreams, even if it spells nightmare. Give me back my aspirations, even if all ends in failure. Give me back my youth, even if it meant struggle. Give me back that passion of love, even though it causes heartache. Or Or, if you wish to take it all and declare that nothing is mine, at least give me the faith to fill my empty chamber with your music. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
I
you,
really
ma'am, for
enjoyed
your
this presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your very crisp and touching poem that has the power to teach one the true meaning of ownership. This poem can have many creative interpretations. It could mean a person demanding his own self to be self-determined and self-accepting, or it could be understood as a humanist poem. I don't know if something like that exists, but a humanist poem demanding the right to own the good with the bad. The dreams and nightmares, the aspirations, the failures, their love and heartache, everything. It's really beautiful. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Meenakshi. And thank you all. I really enjoyed this presentation.
Thank you.
Now I would like to welcome our next poet, Pramila Venkateshwaran, ma'am. Pramila Venkateshwaran was born in Gorakhpur, India. She is a poet laureate of Suffolk Country, Long Island, and co-director of Matwala, South Asian Diaspora Poetry Festival. is the author of Chita, Behind Dark Waters, Draw Me Inmost, Trace, 13 Days to Let Go, Slow Ripening, and the singer of Alepe. She has performed the poetry internationally, including at the Geraldine Art Dodge Poetry Festival and the Festival Internacional de Poesía de Granada. An award winning poet and an author of numerous essays on poetics as well as creative nonfiction, she is also the 2011 Walt Whitman Birthplace Association Long Island Poet of the Year. She is the founding member of Women Included, a transnational feminist association. We are honored to have you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I would like to first thank Mr. Binod Mishra for including me in this anthology, and also the late Professor Charu Sheel Singh. And I would like to extend my thanks to Meenakshi Verma, who is so invested in this anthology and has taken such great trouble to introduce not just the poets, but commenting on every poem. And that really shows a labor of love. Thank you. You might be surprised that I chose this poem, The Elephant's Foot, and not directly a poem about women. The theme of this poem is our oppression of animals, which is directly related to oppression of women. And that too, in India, the elephant is a majestic animal, and the world over. And it's also important to think in terms of all our Eastern philosophies, where human beings are not seen and in a separate category from all the other created things. So animals, humans, all of them. So when we think about the oppression of women, you can easily see in this poem, in the oppression of animals, how that is connected. And The Elephant's Foot is based on a painting, acrylic on canvas by Jayashree George. A Victorian antiquity, a side table for drinks. It sits in the middle of the room, cakey skin sporting 12-inch nails, all parts of the dismembered organ planted on earth without the beautiful burden. Can the body be a phantom burden if the legs on which it stands are lopped off? I feel bitter and disgusted as I witness the cruelty of the giant foot sanded just where the body broke. We have used animals as furniture, as if everything in nature is for our craft. Slaves' teeth used as dentures by wealthy whites, hair for wigs, wombs for breeding, organs of the poor sold for money to fill the lines of patients waiting for transplants. Bodies sold, rented, cut, used, even eaten. Cannibalism is not as rare as we think. Parasitism is commonplace. The elephant's foot, synecdoche of the wild, made to fit civilized decor, ugly artifice that recalls the beauty of the whole. A gorgeous enormity trampling through the jungle, shaking the earth awake, branches bowing before it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that poem that shakes our conscience as human to reflect on our actions and their repercussions. What are we doing, and how far are we willing to let things run wild? Your poem, validly protests inhuman cannibalism and parasitism, resulting from inhuman insensibility and inconsiderate attitude towards nature, which we humans forget to remember is not for our craft. So thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
All the poets are done, but Rashmi Bajaj, ma'am, if she's there, should I invite her?
You can announce the names of those poets who have not been able to. If they are here, they can join.
Sir, Rashmi Bajaj ma'am is left.
Only Rasmi Bajaj ma'am.
Yes, sir.
And I think she is.
So if there is any other poet, please let me know. I mean, if I missed anyone. So in my knowledge, Rashmi ma'am is there.
Okay, we have had. We started with Usha, that is morning. Fine. And we have come to a time when it's going to be around 9. And even between, we saw the sort of ocean, the sort of flow, the sort of spontaneity. Of course, in between, we might have left some of the gems. And I think Rasmi is also one of them. So I think perhaps Rasmi is not there. You have done Lakshmi Sri ma'am, Rachel Bari, Anjana Bashu ma'am, Rani Binoy. She couldn't join. Candice sent her poem, Kalyani Dikshit, Poonam Dwivedi. Yes, she had texted me that because of some problems there, because, we lost Anil K. Sharma, the editor of Contemporary Vibes. And Poonam had texted me the other day that she won't be able to join. Mandira ma'am had already sent, Balsa ma'am has done, Seema Jain ma'am has done, Punita Jha ma'am has done, Molly ma'am has done, Jilka has also done, Munia could not join, fine. Srija has also done, Varati ma'am, Kalyani, Nandini could not join because she texted that she is in the hospital. And then we had Ranu ma'am, that spontaneous overflow, fine, as always. Then Jyotsna ma'am, Savita Tyagi ma'am, and then Pramila ma'am. So in a way, we have been able to come to the full circle. Fine?
Yes, sir.
So now it's up to you.
So now we have almost reached the end of our event, and we hope you enjoyed it. I would now like to call Binod sir to just sum up the program. Also, that was the summary.
Okay. Thank you. Since all great and good events that delight mankind have to come to an end, sorry to say this, we could have continued this poetic numbers overflowing, but then at our back, we always hear time's winged chariot hurrying near, and yonder all before us lie deserts of vast eternity. Though it is the time to bid, it is actually the time for valedictory, and then for valedictory, let us forward morning and pray to the Almighty for a new morning, a new dawn of hope and harmony. I'm quite confident that the variety of poems read by majority of the poets of this anthology are a tribute to late Professor Charu Sheel Singh Sash. I thank every poet of this anthology and am grateful to everyone for their cooperation, though I am tempted, and I would like to mention 5 names without whose cooperation this could not have been successful. And the first is Usha ji, Usha Akela ma'am, and then Lakshmi Sri ma'am, then Seema ma'am, and Kalyani Rajan, of course, who actually introduced me to 3 or 4 poets, and of course Nandini, who couldn't be a part of this eventful evening. This entire event couldn't have been a success without, as you already have realized, the painstaking efforts of Meenakshi. My dear friends, though I should not say it on her face, but after years and years, I have got a scholar who will work on poetry, because poetry is my first love. And even in my career of 25 years, I have not got any scholar who was interested to work in the field of poetry. And of course, I have got Meenakshi. Please excuse me for that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Mishra, but I suggest that we should all give a round of applause to her strenuous efforts and her immaculate comparing today.
Thank you, everyone.
So without the painstaking efforts of Meenakshi, who has worked tirelessly right from planning, designing, and executing the dream that I had seen with Professor Singh. When we had the manuscript ready, there also she helped us in reading the manuscript and suggesting wherever it was possible. And after the publication, she has really spent sleepless nights. I would always be afraid when Meenakshi can call at which hour. Thanks are also due to Rangnath Thakur, another scholar of mine, whose support added extra colors to the entire event. At times, it so happens that we do not know the people who are behind the curtains. And behind the curtain, people also add their lending, helping hand to make any event successful. And in this regard, Asis and Wasim were the crucial movers who, with their technical know how, made everything packed and kept you intact throughout these 3 long hours. Nonetheless, the team of Cuckoo in Crisis also feels obliged to Menka Madam for her wonderful, meaningful, adventurous, prompt, and also consenting, because she had already been very busy, but she consented to deliver the talk. And I kept on pursuing time and again. At one time, she said, "You can go ahead, Professor Mishra." I said, "No, I simply want that you should give a nod so that you can deliver the keynote." Though we have many people in this anthology, but then being the part of them as poets, I am not in a position to invite them to give the chief guest's address. So, Menka ma'am, for her unstinted support in lending additional charm to this August event. I also express my indebtedness to everyone who directly or indirectly helped us in all our enterprise. Of course, we thank Almighty and pray to Him to fill all of us with the unceasing tropes and figures for the poetic numbers to flow ceaselessly. Last but not the least, I'm thankful also to technology, which didn't irritate, but which facilitated throughout. Thank you once again. Thank you very much. I hope that in all future endeavors, you'll always be with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Binod,
Thank
Mishra,
you. Lovely
everyone.
meeting all
Thank you,
of you.
Dr. Mishra. Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir, and thank you
Thank
all
you,
for it.
everyone.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you.
refreshing evening today.
Meet again. We'll meet again.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, Meenakshi,
Thanks
can
for
we now
coming.
request?
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank
Can
you,
we now request
everybody.
Rangnath
Thanks.
to give the vote of
Have a
thanks?
great time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. It's vote of thanks. Okay.
Rangnath?
So yes, sir. So it's very difficult to say something about after such speech, but I have to say something. So friends, India's poetic legacy dates back to Sanskrit verses, to Bhakti poetry, to Urdu poetry and ghazals, and use of poetry, songs and slogans in India's freedom struggle. We know that poetry is a medium through which awareness on greater issues can be raised, whether it's family cause or social integration. In a few stanzas, it can tell a slice of world to you. With this note, first of all, our heartfelt thanks to me, Menka Shivdasani ma'am, for her presence and her enlightening address. She has made us to understand the gender
Ranu ma'am,
stereotyping
you
in
have
the
to
world
mute
of poetry.
yourself. Ranu ma'am, you have to mute yourself. Yes, please continue.
So, first of all, our heartfelt thanks to Menka Shivdasani ma'am for her presence and her enlightening address. She has made us to understand the gender stereotyping in the world of poetry and the need to break that. Then our regard and prayer goes to Charu sir, who is no more with us, but we thank him for his contribution to this poetry collection. Then our sincere thank goes to our editor Binod Mishra sir. His continuous hard work and his presence have made this book and this session possible. I also extend our thanks to Akhand Publishing House for publishing this poetry collection in the difficult time of COVID lockdown. They took this project passionately and they deserve our sincere thanks. Now our humble thank to all the distinguished women poets who have not only contributed in this poetry collection but their recitation has made this program lively. So I thank Usha Akela ma'am, Lakshmi Lakshmi Shri ma'am, Rakil ma'am, Anjana ma'am, Candice ma'am, Kalyani ma'am, Mandira ma'am, Vasla ma'am, Seema ma'am, Punita ma'am, Molly ma'am, Jilka Joseph ma'am, Srija Mohan Das ma'am, Malvika Mukherjee ma'am, Bharti Nayak ma'am, Kalyani Rajan ma'am, Ranu Niyal ma'am, Jyotsna ma'am, Savita ma'am, and Pramila Venkateswaran ma'am. I also thank Rasmi Bajaj ma'am, Nandini Shahu ma'am, Rani Binoy ma'am, Poonam Devedi ma'am, and Munia Khan ma'am, who could not attend today's session, but they contributed to this poetry collection. My more than thanks to Meenakshi for organizing this session in such an outstanding way. She has done a phenomenal job for the success of this event, and she got many appreciations from many poets, and she really deserves that. And then my special thanks to Ashish and Wasim for their continuous support and their technical support in background. And we cannot sum up without thanking our research scholars and audience for their presence and their patience. Friends, the continuity of poetry should prevail. This was an occasion for us to understand the profundity of poetic sensibility. We hope and we wish that all the distinguished poets will be part of our event in days to come. So thank you all again.
And I would like to thank Rangnath for being such a wonderful co-host and support. Thank you so much. And thank you, sir, for this wonderful opportunity. It was a pleasure to be a part of this project. Good night, everyone, and have a wonderful time.
So we are on time, Meenakshi, I think. We are on time.
Absolutely spot on. I was just looking at the clock.
So let's wind up. Let's take a leave from all of them.
Congratulations, everybody. Wonderful. It's just been an enthralling session.
Meenakshi, you can
Thank you so much,
the last
Thank you,
slide.
ma'am.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Yes, Meenakshi, last slides. I think you have left it.
So I can present again. So
Yes, please do. Please do. Before everyone leaves. And we should also thank all those people whom we could not name, but they have been with us. I can see Aditya, one of my other scholars, who is also there. Fine. And many other people are also there. So our thanks also go to them. We offer our hearts to them because poetry generates in the heart, comes to the mind, and then it comes to our pen. Yes, please move. Please move.
this is the last slide.
Oh, this is the last slide. Okay. So thank you very much. Thanks everyone once again. And good night. If you all allow, since it is time, we can bid adieu to see you once again in all the future projects that we start. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Meenakshi. Thank you so much for everything.
Meenakshi, now you can leave. We can leave the meeting.
Yes.
Okay.